The inheritance trap. I never expected to inherit anything. My father and I hadn't spoken in almost 10 years, and when the call came that he was gone, I felt more confusion than grief. The lawyer said there was a house, a few assets, and other matters to discuss. I took the folder with trembling hands, still unsure if I deserved any piece of him. The funeral was quiet, awkward. A handful of old friends, some neighbors, and me. My cousins came, faces I hadn't seen in years, but their condolences felt mechanical. Everyone wanted to know what would happen to the house, the land, the bank accounts. I hadn't even seen the will yet, and already eyes were measuring me like I was holding their future. After the service, my aunt pulled me aside. "You'll do the right thing, won't you?" she asked, her eyes searching me in a way that felt more like pressure than comfort. I nodded without knowing what she meant. When I drove to the old family house that night, keys in hand, I was stepping into more than creaking floors and dusty furniture. I was stepping into secrets my father had left behind for his daughter to find. The house smelled the same: cigarettes, old wood, and the faint echo of whiskey. Every corner felt frozen in time. I walked past the living room, where the wallpaper peeled, and into his office. Papers were stacked in towers, unpaid bills rubber-banded together, drawers stuffed with yellowed envelopes. My stomach dropped as I opened the first folder. Debt. Not thousands. Hundreds of thousands. It didn't make sense. My father had always told me to be careful with money, to save, to prepare for the future. But the statements were clear: credit cards maxed out, loans unpaid, a mortgage still lingering. And then I saw it, accounts tied to my name. Somehow, he had dragged his daughter into this mess. I sat there for hours, the house silent except for the buzz of an old clock. The inheritance wasn't a gift, it was a trap. The next day, the lawyer confirmed what I feared. The house was mine, yes, but so was the debt. "You can walk away," he said, "but creditors will come after anything else your father tied to your name." I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked for time. That night, my cousin Daniel showed up uninvited. He carried a bottle of wine and the kind of smile that hides knives. "I heard you got the place," he said, walking through the rooms like he already owned them. "You know, the land alone is worth something. If you sell, we could all benefit. Uncle always said family comes first." I laughed, bitter. Family comes first? Where were you when he was sick? When I was the one visiting, paying his hospital bills? Daniel's smile didn't budge. That was then. This is now. You can't carry all this alone. We can help. His eyes slid to the stack of debt papers on the desk. "Unless you plan to drown." The way he said help didn't sound like an offer. It sounded like a threat. I didn't sleep that night. Memories flooded back, the way Dad always warned me not to trust Daniel, how he'd show up when money was on the table and vanish when responsibility came calling. My instinct screamed he knew more about these debts than he let on. 2 days later, my cousin Julia called. Her tone was sweeter, softer. "We should meet," she said. "Dad always said your father had secrets. Maybe it's time you knew." I agreed, desperate for answers. We met at a cafe on Main Street. Julia leaned in close, eyes darting around like every table was bugged. "Your dad wasn't just broke," she whispered. "He was being bled dry. Someone in the family was taking from him." I stared. "Taking?" She nodded. "Daniel. He convinced your father to co-sign loans, to invest in schemes that never paid out. When things soured, Daniel disappeared. But your dad couldn't back out without ruining you too. He thought he could fix it before you found out." The words hit like stones. It all made sense: the missing money, the tied accounts, Daniel's sudden interest in helping. My father hadn't abandoned me, he'd been trying to protect me. And now Daniel wanted me to inherit not just the debt, but the blame. I went back to the house with fire in my veins. I tore through drawers, cabinets, files, looking for proof. Finally, in a box under the bed, I found it: copies of checks, loan papers with Daniel's signature alongside my father's, and a journal Dad had kept. In shaky handwriting, he had written, "If she finds this, tell her I tried. Tell her I'm sorry." The next morning, Daniel returned. This time, no wine. Just demands. You can't hold this place, he said flatly. Sign it over. Clear the debt. Start fresh. I held up the papers, the journal, the proof. Funny, I said. Because these say the debt isn't just mine. It's yours too. His face shifted, a flash of panic before the smirk returned. Careful, cousin. You don't want to start a war you can't finish. But the war had already started. I contacted the lawyer, laid out the documents, and demanded Daniel be held accountable. It wouldn't erase the debt, but it would split it where it belonged. Still, I knew Daniel wouldn't back down quietly. That night, someone broke into the house. Papers were scattered, drawers pulled open, locks broken. But what they didn't know was that I had already scanned everything, stored it safely away. Whoever was trying to bury the truth was already too late. The pressure mounted. Phone calls at odd hours, voices warning me to walk away. Friends stopped returning my texts. Even Julia kept her distance, her fear evident. I felt alone, but inside that loneliness, a steel resolve began to grow. When the creditors called again, I told them I was ready to negotiate, but not alone. I named Daniel. I gave them the files. I told them I'd testify if needed. Silence filled the line, then a simple reply, "We'll be in touch." Days passed. Then came the news, Daniel had been arrested for fraud. His schemes had stretched beyond our family, touching businesses across town. My father's name was tangled in it, yes, but now so was Daniel's. The spotlight shifted, and for the first time, I felt air return to my lungs. Still, the debt remained. The house was mine, but so was the burden. I considered selling, walking away. But one night, sitting in Dad's office, I noticed a frame on the wall I hadn't paid attention to. Behind the photo of us fishing years ago was a hidden envelope. Inside were certificates, shares in a small local company I'd never heard of. At first, I thought they were worthless. But after some digging, I discovered the company had just landed a major contract. The shares were valuable. More than valuable. Enough to cover the debt. Enough to start fresh. I cried, clutching the envelope. My father hadn't left me just a trap. He'd left me a chance. A messy, painful, costly chance, but a chance nonetheless. I settled the debts piece by piece, negotiating, selling off what I didn't need. The creditors, satisfied with Daniel behind bars, eased their grip. Slowly, the noose loosened. Months later, I stood outside the house, keys in hand. It didn't feel like a trap anymore. It felt like a test. My father's mistakes, Daniel's greed, my own fear, they had all led me here. And somehow, I was still standing. The inheritance trap had nearly destroyed me. But in the end, it gave me more than money or property. It gave me the truth. It gave me strength. It taught me that family can wound deeper than strangers, but also that survival isn't about what you inherit, it's about what you choose to keep. And I chose to keep moving forward.